What is up, guys? teamknl here, Kai, giving you, I guess, some counter video thing. But basically what I'm going to be doing is basically telling you how to basically counter Mermail Atlantean, since they're going to apparently destroy the format and whatnot. So, obviously, the best way to counter a deck is to make a counter deck that counters that deck only, right? No, that is not a good way to do things, but I have seen some people do it, so just making sure people don't actually do that. But basically what we're going to do is, what I'm going to do is basically teach you how to use your side deck and basically what cards you can play against the deck. I'm also going to tell you what the deck has good matchups and bad matchups, so 3 things that you may need to know coming into the Abyss Rising sneak peek. Alright, so pretty much side deck cards that you can play against Atlantean, Mermails, whatever it is. So they have effects that activate in the graveyard, and it's mostly revolving around Atlanteans. So pretty much you can DD Crow a single Atlantean, so be it. They can't really negate this DD Crow unless they somehow play Debunk or something like that, which I highly doubt. So pretty much DD Crow will get one of their cards, one of their Atlanteans and whatnot. However, you can also play cards like Dimensional Fissure, Macrocosmos, and Soul Drain. Now the difference between these 4 cards is that these negate all Atlantean effects, they prevent most Atlanteans from activating outside of, say, actually they didn't prevent all of them, and then DD Crow only prevents 1. However, DD Crow is really hard for Atlanteans to negate, while these guys are susceptible to MST. And also, these guys also work against Dark World. So, I mean, if you have some Dark World hate, generic Dark World hate in your deck, then here you go. So, pretty much these guys will always stop the Atlanteans, and Soul Drain, I think, is going to be probably hardest for them to counter. Because, I mean, these guys you have to activate before they even attempt to discard Atlanteans, because Atlanteans discard as the cost. So if you try and chain Macrocosmos to an effect that discards an Atlanteans, they still get their effect. So then Macrocosmos will just get blown up. However, you can use Soul Drain to chain to the effect that they discarded, and then they wouldn't get the Atlanteans cannot activate their effects when they start a new chain. So Soul Drain would be really good. However, these 2 are still really solid, especially depending on what deck you're playing. Then DD Crow is also pretty good, but probably not going to be played as much. So that's that. And then pretty much for Atlantean Mermails, as of right now, I don't think the most played build is going to be no traps outside of Abyss Sphere. So right now, Night Beam isn't going to be as good because you won't have as many live targets. However, Night Beam does stop Abyss Sphere from activating, which is going to be really good unless they chain MST and then activate Abyss Sphere and whatnot, but that's besides the point. Night Beam is going to stop that Abyss Sphere, so you may want to consider siding it if you have a problem against Abyss Sphere players. So that's that. And then Bottomless in Mind Crush. Mind Crush is going to stop Megalo from being summoned. Pretty much when they activate Megalo's effect in order to discard 2 water monsters from your hand to special summon himself, that is not an inherent summon. So something such as Thunder King cannot negate it. Very important. However, what you can do is, since it starts a chain, you can Mind Crush Megalo. And also you can Mind Crush Sharks too, so apparently Sharks is very weak to getting their minds crushed. But Mind Crush, pretty much you will not only get to see their hand to hit any other Megalos that are in their hand, you will also get to see their hand, so obviously you know what they're going to do, what back rows they're going to play and whatnot. And while it doesn't stop the Atlantean from activating unless you play Soul Drain along with it, then pretty much all it's going to really do is stop the Megalo. So, I mean, it's okay, but combined with something like Soul Drain is going to be really, really solid. And then last, Bottomless. Bottomless is just gets rid of that Megalo altogether, as well as hits their boss monster, Mulan Glacia. So really, really good cards. And then also, they search a lot with Genex, with Undines and Abyss Spikes and Dragoons too. So this will almost always be live against them, because you'll always know what they have in hand, at least in terms of monsters. So that's really good. Then lastly, I want to talk about these two. These two may already be in your main deck. They may be sided, but pretty much, let me talk about Phoenix Chain first. So let's say they are attempting to summon Megalo, or for simplicity's sake, let's say they summon Undine. So they summon Undine and activate its effect, since they have priority to do so, and then they discard or send to the graveyard a marksman in order to destroy this card. What you can do is, if this is the only card you have, then you can Phoenix Chain to negate, to basically stop them from searching the Genex controller for whatever reason you may want. Or if you do not have any other card, or if you do have other cards, let's say, pretend that's another trap, and the marksman targets this card, you can you can chain the Phoenix Chain onto the Undine, and since this is face up when marksman would resolve, chain does not get destroyed. So you not only stop their Undine from attacking, you also pretty much prevent them, you pretty much make them minus, pretty much. And same thing with Megalo. While it isn't as good against Megalo, because, well, actually it's probably better against Megalo, because you stop their 2400 attacker. The only thing you have to worry about is them summoning a heavy infantry, since more often than not they're not going to discard heavy infantry. And even if they do, they can't target this card because it's face down when heavy infantries would activate. So marksman would destroy this, and then heavy infantry would destroy whatever monster or whatever you have, and then you chain this, and then marksman doesn't get to destroy this, and Megalo doesn't get to attack. Nor does he get the +1 from searching with Abyss Sphere, so that's really good. So I highly recommend Phoenix Chain, possibly in the main deck, if you have a bad matchup against it. And then lastly, I want to talk about Thunder King. Pretty much Thunder King, he stops him from searching. The deck searches like crazy. Dragoons, Abyss Spike, and Megalo all search. So Thunder King stops that. However, what Thunder King doesn't stop is, of course, Megalo. It also stops Diva plays, because if they try and Diva you, and you can just negate their synchro summon, and it's just like, that's cool. Unless they have some counter to it, but that's besides the point. Pretty much, let's give an example of a chain with Thunder King. So they activate Megalo's effect to discard 2 cards. Thunder King cannot negate it, remember, because it is not an inherent summon. It is an effect that starts a chain. So they discard 2 cards. Let's say heavy infantries, they manage to have it, and Dragoons, for the sake of the argument. So they place Dragoon on Chainlink 1 and Marksman, heavy infantry on Chainlink 2, then Megalo if they choose to activate it on Chainlink 3. Even if they do not activate it, doesn't matter. But Megalo cannot search because Thunder King is on the field, and Dragoons cannot search while Thunder King is on the field. So pretty much they have to put Dragoon on Chainlink 1 and then heavy infantry on Chainlink 2 in order to destroy Thunder King. Actually, if I remember correctly, you can't even activate Dragoons. So pretty much, even if they have discard heavy infantry along with Dragoons, you don't get a search because it can't activate because Thunder King is on the field. Even if a card such as heavy infantry would remove it from the field to where Dragoons can resolve. So pretty much you cannot activate Dragoon or Abyss Spike or Megalo's effect to search, which is really important because that means Thunder King's going to stay on the field so much longer, because you can't activate Undine in order to you can't even attempt to activate Undine since you would add a card to hand because Thunder King stops that. You can't activate Abyss Sphere or Abyss Spike in order to discard a heavy infantry in order to search because Thunder King stops that altogether. So pretty much they have to run him over, and pretty much I don't think that's really going to happen unless they have Megalo in hand, and then it's just like, okay, you just stop some of their cards from working. So Thunder King is actually really, really solid against this deck, more surprisingly than I thought it would be. So definitely be side decking this card if you're not maining it, because you're going to get so much better. So now I guess we should talk about decks that are good against Atlantean Mermails. So let's talk about Frog Monarchs, specifically Light and Darkness Dragon. So Light and Darkness Dragon is going to pretty much negate anything that they attempt to activate, obviously, because it has to. But the thing is, if you're discarding Atlanteans in order to activate a water monster effect, Light and Darkness Dragon will negate the water monster's effect that is activating, and then it will also negate the Atlanteans effect. So it pretty much makes them minus, and they don't get any pluses off the Atlanteans. So that's really good. And also Caius and whatnot is really good for putting damage on board. And if you don't know, the rest of the decks that have a good matchup against it are going to have to deal with the magic number of Megalo, which is 24. And while the Monarchs do have exactly 24 as it, so they can butt heads with them, the best thing about it is that they can pretty much get their +1 effect. So pretty much you would just be able to just remove, send back to the deck, bounce or whatever, destroy with your Monarch, and then be able to deal 24 damage. So Monarchs, I believe, are going to have a really strong matchup against the deck and are going to be very popular once it catches on. Then another deck that is going to be very powerful against it is Agents. Now, mainly because of Herald of Orange Light. Herald of Orange Light is going to stop a key Atlantean from activating, and pretty much Hyperion just destroys everything. So I mean, Hyperion activate on the field would destroy Megalo and then swing for 27, as well as Christia. Christia prevents Megalo from even activating, so you can't even discard. So the only outs you have would be Bisspike and Undine, and even then you would have to have infantry in hand or in deck for Undine, and respectively. And then Christia is going to come back and hit them in the face, and then you're pretty much back in that situation where you have to get rid of Christia again. So Christia is also going to be really solid coming into this, after this new set. So Agents going to have a really good matchup against it, and if that would so this shine. And then next, Heroes. Now, it isn't the fact that they're going to be beating you at 1900s. It's the fact that Spark is pretty much going to eliminate whatever plus you get from well, I don't think it's going to eliminate whatever plus, but it's going to mitigate whatever minus you take, pretty much from the Atlanteans activating, because you can just Spark and then draw a card and destroy Megalo or something. And also, Shining is going to beat Megalo in the face, and they are not going to be able to do anything about it. So I mean, the deck is also going to have a pretty good matchup, but basically, the main thing about Heroes is Super Poly. Super Poly is going to make Atlanteans have a really bad day, because once they get over it, which they have to by summoning Diva or whatever, then Absolute Zero is just going to destroy them, all their monsters and efforts, and then you can just Miracle again or whatever, summon Stratos or beat down with Elias, and pretty much it's just nights out for Atlanteans. And then last but not least, the best deck to counter this deck, in my opinion, outside of Monarchs, is Chaos Dragons. So Chaos Dragons now have a really good match, even more matchups, to the point to where I believe they are pretty much in the run for first place. They are pretty much tied with windups, in my opinion, right now. Pretty much Pulsar. They get rid of Pulsar, Red MD comes out on the field. And if they cannot get rid of Red MD, Pulsar comes back and it just ruins their day. Megalo can't run over it. They have to make an Exceed play to get over it, and it's just real downhill from there for them. So pretty much Chaos Dragon's really solid matchup. Sticking a Pulsar on the field is so good. So that's decks that have really good matchups against it. So obviously so many decks have good matchups against it. So why would you even consider playing this deck when it does not have a good matchup against any of these decks already here? Well, the reason why you would even want to attempt to play the deck is, one, no one's going to know what the hell is going on because Atlanteans are going to be going everywhere. But two, they have really solid matchups against Geargias, these guys, and Windups. So two of the best decks of the format they have very good matchups against. Though Geargia is kind of iffy because if they're playing Karakuris, then obviously the Karakuri Geargia matchup is more horrible is less in the Mermail's favor, but the Machina version is actually going to be more in their favor, just slightly though. So pretty much the only way they're going to be able to get Megalo off the field is Fortress. And while it's going to be hard for you to get Fortress off the field with Atlantean, since he's going to rip a card from your hand if you target him with heavy infantry, pretty much you stop the deck from going altogether because you stop their Geargia armors from activating, hopefully, with Marksman. So really good beginning plays against Geargia, and pretty much once you stick a Megalo on the field, it's hard for them to get over it unless they have the Fortress or they're playing Geargia or Karakuri. Now Windups, they have a really strong matchup against Windups because while I don't think they're going to be playing it, they can play Dragon Ice, which, if you don't know what that card does, is if your opponent special summons a monster, you can discard one card from your hand to special summon this card from your deck, or from your hand or graveyard. So what does that mean? Pretty much it is a water monster, so yes, it does trigger Atlantean's effects. So pretty much when they go Magician, trigger Shark, you can just say, okay, when they special summon the second Magician from the deck, pretty much you can just blow up the other Magician by discarding heavy infantry, and then special summon Dragon Ice on the field. Pretty much there, the only thing they can do is either overlay for Shockmaster, or not Shockmaster. Whoa, that's crazy. If they want to waste their Papil Operative, they can, or they're going to have to go Utopia or Zenmeister. So pretty much that means that the deck is going to have to basically stop what it's doing because the rest of its play is gone, and then they'll have to, which gives you another chance to pretty much win because they don't have Magician and Shark anymore. So really strong matchup against Windups. So tell me what you guys think about this, about Mermail's Atlanteans. Are you guys going to be playing them? I know pretty much everyone that I play Yu-Gi-Oh! With is going to be playing the deck, so nightmares for everyone. So yeah, like, rate, comment, and subscribe, and Team KNL out.